In 1512, the great Renaissance artist Michelangelo finished painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel in Rome. His frescoes are legendary and, according to some, one of the world's greatest artistic achievements. Although it's the center panel, called the Creation of Adam, that may be most well known. It features a rendering of God, seated on high, surrounded by a retinue of angels, bestowing life unto man. But that image is also somewhat problematic, not artistically, but theologically, in that, in Michelangelo's telling, God is depicted as a bearded, graying, and very seemingly human male. Given the image's iconic stature, over the centuries it has become, for many, the de facto popular understanding of God. To many people, Michelangelo's image depicts, accurately, what Western monotheists, and that includes Jews, imagine when contemplating the divine. But is that true? Does Michelangelo's masterpiece have anything to do with the Jewish understanding of God? And if so, doesn't that seem a little ridiculous? Do Jewish people really believe in a bearded man in the sky? In the ancient world, many people believed in gods that were, in effect, superhuman versions of themselves. Their gods were powerful, although fallible, and demanded worship and sacrifices. They were limited too, and aside from the times they were needed, generally left you alone. But these gods also served a philosophical purpose, and their existence, indeed their reason for being, provided answers to questions that were, at the time, otherwise unanswerable. But that's not what the Jews believed. The Jews embraced a God who was non-corporeal, as in, specifically not a man, male, physical, or embodying human characteristics. The Jewish God was omnipotent and unknowable, and not something that could be sculpted or represented in nature or art. That belief, which marks the birth of the Jewish faith, was radical at the time and traditionally ascribed to the biblical figure Abraham. In Jewish lore, Abraham is portrayed as an independent thinker and radical, as well as an idealist who risked his life to spread his beliefs. But Abraham's belief was complex. Often credited as the world's first monotheist, he wasn't necessarily the first person to believe in a single deity. In Egypt, the late 18th dynasty pharaoh, Akhenaten, also believed in a single god, although his god was the sun. And some scholars date the Iranian prophet Zoroaster, an early monotheist, to as far back as the second millennium before the year 0, although that date is disputed and could only be off by as much as 1,000 years. Abraham's monotheism, what set it apart and made it so appealing and lasting, wasn't so much a belief in one God as it was a belief in God's oneness. The Jewish God is omnipotent and all-powerful, or the single exclusive source of existence. Everything that exists and everything that happens does so because God wants it to, and nothing is independent of that. That's an idea so central to Jewish belief that the primary name Jews use for God is a contraction of the past, present, and future forms of the Hebrew verb to be. Many Jews, to this day, even have a declaration of God's oneness written on parchment called a mezuzah, which is affixed to the doorposts of their homes. Religious Jews make that same declaration every morning and evening, attempt to say it at the time of their death, and teach it to their toddlers as they begin speaking. But that belief isn't just a semantic distinction. Belief in an all-powerful God implies that everything that happens has meaning and a purpose. Nothing is random, and there are no accidents. For many, that idea proved irresistible, and today, more than half of humanity practices a variant of one of the 3 great Abrahamic faiths. Michelangelo practiced one of those faiths as well, although, at least in his art, his aesthetic sensibilities may have gotten the better of him.